Michigan got maybe the most important piece of the 2027 recruiting class on Tuesday. More on that and some spring ball thoughts right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday. We're back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Lowell, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Actually, your man at home today did not go to today's press conference, so we're changing things up a little bit. It was more just so I could get this done in a timely fashion. There was no urgency, but wanted to put it all into the show today. I don't like these midday press conferences, because I feel like it takes me out of the podcast groove. So anyway, with that, we're going to start out with the news that Michigan landed 4-star quarterback Kamden Lopati first, before moving on to Todd Blackledge's evaluation of the Maize and Blue that he posted over the weekend. And then finally, why I agree with CBS Sports' best and worst case scenarios for the Wolverines in 2026. So first and foremost, got to discuss Kamden Lopati. Got his recruiting profile up. I'm actually going to go to Rivals. I have 24/7. We're going to use 24/7 for something else, because there's a couple different things here that we'll get to. But rated number 50 in the country, according to ESPN. They're the highest on him. Rivals is 115th. 24/7 languishing behind, has him as the 19th quarterback, and 3-star, which is kind of nuts. But there's a lot to like about, and I'm just going to copy something else over here. There's a lot to like about what Kamden Lopati brings to the table. I do think that, and this isn't just because, 24/7's the lowest on him. I just think that usually, like, when there's an outlier like that, it's kind of tells you something. Like, the outlier could be one of two things, right? It could be like, hey, we got some eyes on this guy that others didn't get, and we're higher or lower on him than otherwise. But I think when, like, ESPN of all places are like, yeah, nope, this dude's legit, they don't maybe do as many evaluations overall as the other two sites. But at the same time, like, when ESPN has got their eyes on him, and they're like, yeah, he's our number 50 guy in the country, that usually says something, especially from the quarterback position. But quarterback being the linchpin of any class, it's huge for Michigan to be able to get a guy that Kyle Whittingham feels fits his system. And, like, they were on him, trying to get him when they were at Utah, couldn't get him there, ends up going to Illinois, backs off the Illinois pledge. Right beforehand, you had Brett Bielema calling out Josh Henschke. Didn't really call him out, but Josh is really excited about that, by the way. But nonetheless, I love Bert. I love Bert so much. But there's just some guys that I love that are in the coaching profession, and I don't mean that ironically. I had that with Tom Crean. He thought I meant it ironically. I posted something about him on Twitter. I think it was in 2015. Maybe it was 2017. Yeah, it might have been 2017. And he thought I was making fun of him. And he actually, we actually built a friendship off of that. Not like a huge friendship, but an acquaintanceship. Let's say it's an acquaintanceship. But, like, it legitimately, like, same thing for Brett Bielema. So sorry, Bert, whatever you want to be called. No Kamden Lopati for you coming to Michigan. So before I get into my own thoughts on him, I wanted to read Andrew Ivins from 24/7 has his evaluation, and then also so does Greg Biggins. And then I have my own thoughts. So, savvy dual threat quarterback that excels as a vertical passer and a power runner in a spread attack, almost like a linebacker, and measured under just under 6'3", 225. Can get the ball out fast, likes to use touch when looking deep. I'm not reading the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it, because, I mean, some of this is just kind of what I've got. will hit his first read and keep an offense on schedule, but then tends to make some of his best tosses working off script, dangerous on the scramble, and is the type of a number of defenses have to account for in the RPO game. Projects as a power 5 starter. Is a track runner, or at least ran a almost just shy of 12-second 100-meter dash, which isn't like blazing, but it's pretty good for someone his size. So, but yeah, according to Greg Biggins, he's a pure thrower with some underrated athleticism. Has shown he can stress a defense with his arm and his legs. I think that he also rushed for 730 yards, by the way, and 10 touchdowns last year. Definitely a zone read type of guy. So, having watched his film, and again, I'm not an evaluator. That's why I wanted to give you people who literally do it for a living's decision or their evaluations here. I still saw a guy that, while maybe not like your traditional going through reads type of thing, and I think that's the type of thing that's going to have to be drilled into him. And I do think that maybe not the most mechanically perfect type of guy, but then again, Bryce Underwood was pretty close coming out of high school, and then a lot of stuff ended up getting kind of wrecked last year. Good job, last year's Michigan coaching staff. Solid work. But the touch thing that was mentioned on the downfield passes, you could see that they weren't all just fireballs. And I think the other thing is just like the deceptive speed when he did take off, whether it was a designed run or not. He had outside runs, he had inside runs on his highlight reel, and like he was able to do either. And he's such a big body. Because right now he's like basically Bryce's size in high school, and that's without any of the strength and conditioning and what have you. So I think that shows you a lot of like the clay that you're working with. It might not be perfectly formed, but it's pretty close. And especially for what we think that you want the Kyle Whittingham, Jason Beck experience to look like. And he feels like a really good fit for what Michigan wants to do. Now, the other great thing about now having your quarterback, because obviously like you lost Peter Bork, and that's disappointing. But I think that Kamden Lopati is maybe a better fit for what this offense is probably supposed to be. And, granted, it should be a few years off, right? Because you've got Bryce, not just this year, next year as well. After that, you hope that you can move on to, Tommy Carr or, Chase Herbstreit. Let's not write him off either, or Brady Smigel. Like the fact that you're building this thing, you hope that you aren't actually like seeing Lopati until like 4 years from now, essentially. But you're also able to like use him a little bit as a bargaining chip for a guy like Quentin Burrell, the 4-star wide receiver out of Chicago, has long been Michigan's top wide receiver target. Even with the last staff, I felt like they liked him more. Maybe I'm speaking incorrectly. I felt like they liked Quentin Burrell more than even Manshawn Sales, the 5-star out of Indianapolis, who Michigan was in on for a while. So I think that the fact that like you've got Lopati now, Quentin Burrell puts out his top 4. Michigan's there with Notre Dame, Arizona State, and another school. I can't remember. But nonetheless, that feels, again, just like with Kamden Lopati, a Michigan Notre Dame battle. And I think it helps when you are able to get a guy and say, like, look, this is what we're going to do with this dude. Like, we're especially because they're building a much more dynamic passing offense as it is. I just think that this is a great get for Michigan. The timing is phenomenal because it's like right as like, maybe not like before all the visits, because you're kind of coming to the end of the late winter, early spring visits, but certainly like, before the spring game, you got the vibes high, especially with the spring game itself. You've got some big visitors coming, including the 5-star defensive lineman, Marcus Fakatu. Then you go into those, the May and June visits, already having your quarterback. That is where you really kind of start to pay some dividends. So that's my thoughts as best as I can make it. All right, well, let's move on. I want to talk a bit about what Todd Blackledge had to say about Michigan over the weekend. I know it's Wednesday. We're getting to it. We've got stuff to talk about, okay? All right, we're going to get to more of that here in just a moment. But before we do, the NHL playoffs are here, where every shift matters, every moment is intense, and the pressure is at its highest. And apparently, the pressure is far too high for the Detroit Red Wings. But I digress. Or do I? Just like performance matters on the ice, it matters off the ice too. And that's where Rougiet comes in. Rougiet offers treatments designed to help you get ready and stay ready when it matters. Their top option, Rougiet Ready, combines clinically proven ingredients in a simple mint that dissolves under your tongue. It works fast, often in about 15 minutes, and can last up to 36 hours. They also offer Go Long, designed to help with both performance and control. It's all about confidence and feeling like yourself again. Head to Rougiet.com/LockedOnNHL and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Rougiet Performance Medicine for Men. Get Locked On Wolverines ad-free with the Everydayer Club, plus members-only Discord access. Join at LockedOnWolverines.supercast.com. Even though I said in the Everydayer Club, because yesterday on the show, on the mailbag, we got to the Rican Raider ham stand, and I'm like, I can't read this whole thing. And he puts it in the Everydayer Club, and he's like, Isaiah's getting tired of me. And I'm like, no, I just can't literally read what you wrote. But that you can read the type of stuff he writes in the Everydayer Club. You know, it's the best of some worlds. This world, maybe. Oh, I love it over there. It's cool. All right. Todd Blackledge, NBC Sports color commentator, been around the block for a while. He's got some thoughts on Michigan, having seen the Wolverines in scrimmage. So here we go. He said, stop number 6, felt like a crisp fall morning watching Michigan football scrimmage. Takeaways, expect Underwood to make a jump in development under OC Jason Beck and the watchful eye of quarterback coach Coy Detmer. O-line has talent but must improve as pass protectors. Running back, defensive line, defensive back, all can be strong groups. All right. So there's a bit to unpack there. And obviously, I think it's good that because one of the reasons why we're going to talk about what he had to say, because as much as he had his own say here, we get to see a spring game, but we might not see all of these things working together. And certainly, you expect that they were probably more so going with a lot of depth chart stuff. We're not necessarily going to see that in the spring game either. But nonetheless, the fact that he leads with Underwood and says expect Underwood to make a jump in development. I mean, it's kind of phrased weirdly, almost it almost like it's sourced, but also kind of it wasn't like I saw a bunch of development from Bryce Underwood, but at the same time, that's still ultimately the most positive thing you could get on this team. If you had to pick one thing that you would take and say, this is where Michigan needs to make the biggest improvement year over year from last to this one, it would be Bryce Underwood making a big jump in development. That's easily number one. All the other things, which we'll get to, obviously, the defensive line, and, Kyle Whittingham has spoken so much about how good he feels the defensive line is. We know the running back room is just absolutely solid. There's some certain things there with the defensive backs, right? The depth. Okay, we don't know, right? Whittingham hasn't been that enthused about the depth there, even though we talked about that yesterday. And I think that, it'll get there. I think they have it. I just think maybe it's underperformed beyond the starters. Those are all great things. The most important thing is Bryce Underwood and what he is capable of doing this year compared to last year. So, the fact that is the lead story here is big, because number one, you don't want to have another year, especially against Ohio State, where it's LOL, 67 yards and whatever. I mean, it worked out well for Davis Ward. It just didn't work out well for Bryce Underwood. Maybe it could have worked out better for Bryce Underwood if, I don't know, the person who was overseeing things didn't completely change the game plan based off of the first play of the game. I don't know. Maybe Maybe you learned the lessons that John Cooper had learned at Ohio State, didn't learn at Ohio State, and you recognize that you just don't do that exact same thing. So, but is what it is. That's exasperating regardless. But nonetheless, you need to be able to be in a situation where you're not looking at it in terms of him being hamstrung because either he's incapable or was kind of the concern, or is he being hamstrung because the coaches think they're smarter than anything else? And it just doesn't seem like that's what this staff is doing. And the fact that I was asked yesterday on the mailbag, are those problems fixable? Yes, they're all fixable. None of it is, and I don't mean this as any offense to Jaden Davis, none of it is like a crazy weird throwing motion or like a hitch or something like that is like, ooh, that's going to take some work, right? Like the only times that you see something that you're like, that's going to take some work are like the off-schedule plays when he does something and you're like, why are you doing that? Or like the times against like particularly Michigan State and Purdue last year when it was like happy feet when no one was coming. Like he's hearing ghosts and getting happy feet. And you're like, what are you doing? And then one of the times he has happy feet, stretches for a first down against Purdue and then turns the ball over. Like those are the issues that like can easily be cleaned up. So the fact that that's the lead is huge right there. Offensive line has talent, but must improve as pass protectors. That is easily the most disappointing thing, period. I think than anything else that could be said. Because the expectation was that, and I understand it's just spring ball. You've got plenty of time between now and the first game. But the expectation was that Jim Harding was going to turn things around pretty quickly. Now, I don't think that the offensive line that they're playing with at the moment is necessarily the offensive line you're going to see on opening day. So you can kind of change that around, right? You got at least one guy that almost certainly will be playing in Evan Link, who has been precluded from spring ball. So I think the other thing is, because what you have to always remember with the offensive line, this isn't like offensive line is Tampa must improve as pass protectors. You hear that and you start thinking, okay, it's all five. And that's not always the case. Run back with me to 2017. It was one guy that essentially made the pass protection bad. One. So that's all it takes, right? Like one player who is not good at pass protection, maybe another one is intermittent at it, and your offensive line is bad at pass protection. That's just how it works. So we don't know exactly who the best starting five is yet. We won't know until maybe not even straight away at the beginning of the season, but that's still the most disappointing thing. Running back, defensive line, defensive back, all strong groups. We knew that was going to be true of the running backs. We thought that of the defensive backs. To get defensive line there, and I know that Kyle Whittingham has been like saying it over and over again. He loves this defensive line. That is not what we had thought going into spring ball. That was not in the cards. I mean, yeah, it was clear at the beginning of spring ball when Whittingham says at his pre-spring ball press conference, defensive line, that's one of our strengths. But like, that wasn't what we were talking about. That's not what anyone, like every single mailbag. How concerned are you about the defensive line? How concerned are you about the defensive line? How concerned are you about the defensive line? Now you've got someone that isn't the head coach of Michigan saying hey, I agree with the coach. This group looks great. I just hope it isn't what it was last year when it was, I heard from, I think 3 different people. Yeah, but one of 2 direct sources, 1 indirect source. And I think my indirect source had heard from my direct sources that like the front 7, like they felt like internally that Michigan had the best front 7 in the country. And it did not turn out to be the case. So sometimes you just don't want to be sniffing your own perfume, if you know what I mean. And you just hope that that's not the case. But Todd Blackledge coming out and saying it makes you feel like maybe it's not. So good stuff. All right, let's move on. I want to get to the Brad Crawford, my former colleague at 24/7 Sports, CBS. He has a best case, worst case scenario for Michigan, and I'm buying. I'm absolutely buying it, which is kind of rare for Brad with Michigan stuff, but I'm there with him. So we're going to get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, if you've ever opened your bank account and thought, where did all my money go? I know the answer. For me, it's DoorDash. Making a roast right now, so it's not all DoorDash. But you're not alone. And the way that I learned about the DoorDash issue, it is through Rocket Money, because I'm always keeping track of my subscriptions, spending, and bills through Rocket Money, helping me take control of my finances all in one place. It tracks all of your subscriptions in one spot and helps cancel the ones you don't need. With just a few taps, it automatically categorizes your spending so you can actually see where your money is going, and you can set budgets, get alerts, and stay on top of upcoming bills. It makes everything feel more organized and gives you a cleaner picture of your finances day to day. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so that your savings, all good, everything's much better. So let Rocket Money help you teach your financial goals faster. Join Rocket Money. Join at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And I'm going to give a little personal endorsement. I used this a ton when I was getting my mortgage, which was also through Rocket Mortgage. So there you go. All right. My brother in Christ, Brad Crawford. We talk about some of his articles a lot. Sometimes it's not because it's good. But sometimes it is. This one I'd say I pretty much agree with everything he says here. So let's get to it. So he did best case, worst case scenarios for like the top group, the top teams. I think it was the top teams. Might have been the Big Ten. I don't remember, but he did like the best case, worst case scenario for every. And for Michigan, he gave a best case scenario of 11-1 with an 8-1 Big Ten record, and 7-5, 5-4 in the worst case. So I only have really kind of one disagreement, and it's with that 5-4 in the worst case. But otherwise, like this season could be a roller coaster. It could be a really good one. It could be a really bad one. Who knows? Here's what I had to say. Best case scenario: 11-1, 8-1. Jason Beck is tasked with unlocking Bryce Underwood as the conference's next superstar at quarterback. And first-year Wolverines coach Kyle Whittingham is confident his former OC at Utah can make it happen. Michigan has a top 15 signing class and several immediate impact transfers that should help the program rebound from last season's somewhat disappointing finish. Worst-case scenario, 7-5, 5-4. The schedule includes Oklahoma, Iowa, Penn State, and Indiana at home before road battles at Oregon and Ohio State in the final 3 weeks of the season. Realistically, going 500 against those six opponents? What am I talking about? Okay. Would feel like a mini win for Whittingham and the staff. Okay. I don't disagree with the idea of those 6 games going 3-3 in those. But like, to me, like, maybe I'm completely off base. I understand Penn State, new coach, lots of excitement there as well. Matt Campbell's a very good coach. I mean, he could have been Michigan's coach if Sharon Moore would have gotten caught about a week earlier. Kind of funny how that works out. Iowa loses a ton of talent, and that's without all of their cheating. Can't help it. I didn't even do it well. Anyway. I just don't see, I could see losing 4 games out of those 6, but I mean, Oklahoma wouldn't include in that. And it's possible Michigan loses to Iowa or Penn State. I just don't think that Michigan's going to lose 4 of those games. Now, if it's 7-5 and 5-4, basically what he's saying is they lose to Oklahoma, right? Because that extra loss would mean it's out of conference. So he had that, and he's not predicting that. He's just saying this is the worst case. Just be clear that you would be losing to Oklahoma and then 4 of the other 5. I think that's highly unlikely given just the talent Michigan has. And is it possible? It is. It's absolutely possible. I just think it would be more likely that if they were to lose 5 games, I mean, I guess that they would be among those 6, but I just don't think that's likely. So I guess I don't have any qualms because I just think that that's possible. I just don't think it's likely. Otherwise, like the 11-1, I mean, if I was to pick them to go to 11-1, I would say they lose at Oregon, just because I think Oregon might be poised to be the best team in the conference this next year. It's at Oregon. If it was in Ann Arbor, maybe it would be different, but it's at Oregon. Michigan's shown that it can go to Ohio State and win with less, apparently. So maybe they need to get Davis Warren to transfer back from Stanford, though. I don't know. Nonetheless, I think that it's fair. I think both sides are fair. And I do think the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. They're probably a 9-3 team again this year. I know that's what they were last year, but like last year's schedule, like wasn't quite as daunting. It was only daunting because of the home away of it all. This year, it's not quite as bad in terms of like the travel, except for in the month of November when they've got separated by 1 week, go to Oregon, come back home for 1 week, and then go to Ohio State. I mean, otherwise it's like fine, right? Like they don't leave until I think October, right? That first road game against Minnesota, maybe it's the last week of September, but they have 4 straight home games before they go. So, you know, like that helps you a little bit. But like, I think the truth's probably in the middle, just kind of given how daunting the schedule is. I mean, it's possible that they could still get in the playoff with a 9-3 record, but I think that if I had to pick, I would say it's 9-3, somewhere in the middle. They don't make the playoff, but it's close. That would be my guess, and I would just hope to be wrong. But it could go either way. It could be a lot better. It could be a lot worse. And I think it's a big mystery because it's a coaching staff that's just completely different. We don't know what we're going to get from them. And I think that there's a lot of talent that they're working with that is just well above what they're accustomed to working with across the board. Like Marcus Hagens, the assistant wide receivers coach, and Tony Alford are pretty much the only ones that have worked with talent of this caliber. Pretty much. I'm just kind of racking my brain here and thinking like, no, that's pretty much it. So, all right, we are going to be back on Thursday. Maybe we'll talk what we're going to talk about today if I had gone to the press conference, and we'll figure that out. All right, anyway, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. Peace.